Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great day for PD at the Hive Summit. Our goal here at the Hive Summit is to introduce you to people and ideas that will help launch your school year. Together, through watching, tweeting, connecting, we can build a positive PLN that will produce some sweet results. Today's guest is a former kindergarten teacher who also dabbled in 2nd and 5th grades. His passion for effective leadership strategy has driven him to move from the classroom to the district office. He now finds himself as superintendent of Fall Creek School District in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. He is the host of Hacking Leadership podcast, as well as a co-author of the books The Power of Branding, Telling Your School Story, Principal Professional Development, Leading Learning in the Digital Age, and Hacking Leadership, 10 ways great leaders inspire learning that teachers, students, and parents love. This man seems to save rest for retirement, as he was also named Future Ready Superintendent as well as Personalized Learning Leader. As such, he was also named one of 5 administrators to watch in 2018 by Education Drive. Let's all welcome Joe Sanfelippo on the Hive today. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man. That you may have just taken up my whole time. I don't know if I like that. We'll have to come back to it. At the core of what we do here, I'm a superintendent in an incredible school district in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, home of the Fall Creek Crickets.
Woo!
Only thing I like talking about.
I love it. Love it. Well, I mean, today on the Hive, we're so glad to have you. You have quite an impressive resume, and I am so excited to bring your message to the Hive because I think it really, really can resonate with both leaders, whether that's instructional technology coaches, whether that's literacy coaches, whether that is principals and superintendents themselves, or the classroom teacher. We are all, in essence, leaders on some degree, and so your message, I think, is going to fit perfect here in the Hive, and thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate being here. And what an incredible opportunity for people to learn and grow together. And I think one of the things that's really important about the work that happens in this space or any space is the idea that, we're better together. And if we're willing to work together and try something new together, we're going to find ourselves in a much better spot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so to sort of launch your whole presentation off, in your book, Hacking Leadership, which is what we're going to concentrate here, you have this hacking leadership wheel, and I was wondering if you could first give a brief overview of that, and then we'll obviously dive deeper into each of the sections.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. So here's the thing. You were talking about, the message and the vision and all of that and those things before. And I want to be really clear before we even start, because I was asked this the other day. We did this event, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. And one of our teachers had asked me, what's your vision for where this goes? And I just got to be honest, when it comes to the vision, I just told her, it's not mine. It never was mine. It can't be mine. It's got to be ours. And the one thing, when it comes to the work that happens in our space, honestly, when they say, what's your vision? My vision is not really my vision's a hope for these people, the incredible educators in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. My hope is simply this. My hope is that they feel the way that I feel when I talk about them. That's my hope for them, because the work that they do on a regular basis is absolutely astounding. Think about it. Honestly, what happened? Everybody that's on this right now, if you're invested with kids, you're moving kids. Right? You move people, you move them academically, you move them emotionally, you make them feel valued, you make them feel safe. That's what you do. That's together we do that. But at the same time, there are people who have no affiliation with the work that you do that are creating this judgment on what you do. And I don't understand how we're the only, honestly, I think we're the only profession in the world that feels like we have to justify our worth, right? When people say that I'm just a teacher, honestly, there's nothing that drives me crazier than when people say that I'm just a teacher. It's the dumbest thing. You move people, you change lives. That's not just, I don't go to just a heart surgeon, man. That's not what the bill says when I get it. That's the thing. We're not just teachers. We're teachers just like whoever came before you and the connection that you made. So when it comes to the leadership opportunity that we have and hacking leadership and the wheel that we're going to talk about, this is just about making sure that we're creating opportunities for the people that we serve. It doesn't matter if we serve a group of, if we serve a school, or we serve a classroom, or we serve a small group of kids that are learning how to read. That doesn't matter. What matters is we're doing our best to lead them so they can lead themselves on some level. My hope for the people in this building is that they feel the way that I feel when I talk about them, because the work that they do with our kids is nothing short of spectacular. And that's where the whole hacking leadership thing, came about. We kept, my friend Tony Sinanis and I, who co-authored the book with me, we kept reading all of these things about how all kids should learn. Well, no, thank you. All kids should learn. I appreciate that, like that bit of knowledge, right? But tell me how to do it. Well, everybody should be able to give an ownership of their life. Great. Tell me how to do it. And so that's where hacking leadership came from, because when it comes to the leadership opportunities that people have, a lot of times the leaders that you come into contact with are people that have shown some progress as a teacher or as a coach or as a mentor or whatever, or they interviewed really well. There's not a lot of leadership background that you can go through a lot of classes and you can talk about a lot of philosophy. But when you get into a school and people are running at you at 1,000 miles an hour, that's when you learn how to lead. Like Jimmy Costas says, leadership isn't about what you know, about doing what what happens when you know what to do. It's doing the right thing when you don't know what to do. That's leadership. And that doesn't matter if
in that moment,
district or leading a classroom. So that's where we came. That's the backdrop to the hacking leadership wheel. And it's really built into 3 components. The first component is being intentional about the work that we do, because a lot of times what ends up happening is we run through the course of a year and you turn around, you're like, oh my goodness, it's May. What just happened, right? And the second,
I love that message. I mean, that is a word that just means a ton to me. Being intentional is just a total game changer. When you start to take ownership of your time, like you have so much potential and so many things you can do when you own it, when you're intentional.
Without question. And we have to teach our kids how to be intentional too, because I think a lot of them are floating through the world too, just wondering what's going to happen next. So being intentional is about, it's about picking, like walking through the hallways and picking up garbage, but also picking up garbage in front of people who might see you pick up garbage. So being intentional about that moment, so you know that there's an opportunity for them to see you, so they'll do it again. So you're modeling that piece, right? That's what being intentional about. Being intentional is about, when we think about how we get through the day, how are we making sure that we're making multiple connections? Not the drive-by walk-through kind of thing, but how are we making people feel like they're valued in that space? The second piece of the wheel, after we get down to it, being intentional, the second piece of the wheel is opening doors. And opening doors is really about making sure that you're transparent with the work that's happening in your space, because in the absence of knowledge, people tend to make up their own. If they don't know what you do, then they make up what you do. And to be honest, when they make up what you do, it's not always the best, and it's not always what you do. So opening doors knocks down the walls of our schools and makes sure that people know and understand what's actually happening inside with the amazing work that our teachers are doing. And then finally, on top of that, on the other piece of it is building staff or building momentum or building the people in your world. So it's not just about, you don't have to be the leader of a school to build. You have to make sure that if you're the leader in your classroom, if you're the leader of a small group, how are you building those people up to make sure that they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves? And when they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, they will perform like they're part of something bigger than themselves. So those are the 3 components of hacking leadership and what we've done to really make sure that people feel valued in that space and give the practical applications to do that.
I mean, these are all powerful like chunks to look at, and like you said, it really can resonate with teachers and administrators alike. I love that you talked about that. Ultimately, the overarching goal here is to serve the people that that are in front of you, whether they are students, whether they're staff, like doesn't matter, and create positive opportunities for them. I mean, what an awesome goal. So snapping these 3 pieces together, being intentional, opening doors, building momentum and staff. Let's drill down on, I mean, not to play favorites here, but I do love intentionality. So let's start with intentionality. You had mentioned sort of like some examples that modeling that's important for us to do as educators or just positive community members. What's some other things that fall under being intentional?
That's an active mentality. Like that's an active, that's active, action that you want to take on throughout the course of the day. So being intentional to us is not just about like walking through the hallways. It's walking through the hallways with intentionality. It's walking into classrooms with intentionality. It's our principals walking into classrooms and asking questions like, what are you doing and why are you doing it? And that's the opportunity for us to really think about what it really looks like moving forward. It's not just about the what, it's the why and how we do what we do and the reason behind what we're doing, what we do. And the intent like this, like I could stand a lot of places, right? We could do this video in a lot of places, but we're doing it right by the backdrop because I want everybody to know. I want everybody, every single person who watches this video to know that I am so proud of the people in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, and the work that they're doing with our kids, that they should be out, they should be talking about the great work that they're doing too. This is our opportunity for the platform to get expanded. And if you go on Twitter and you look up the hashtag, the Go Crickets hashtag, you can see exactly what's happening in this school. You can see our kids launching rockets. You can see our kids like launching. You can see our street fair. You can see our kids doing a global Spiro Day. You can see all of these things, and then you connect with the people that are doing it, and they're amazing. They're amazing. But the idea is we want to make sure that people know about it, and being intentional about that is not just about making sure that you do it, but make sure that you're doing it in a platform that where people can see it on a regular basis. So the intention, like one of the things that's really important to us is to make sure that we make connections with people. So I try to start my day off with a couple of positive notes. So that gets me out of the office right away, writing 2 positive notes to people and making sure that people know that they're valued. I can write the note and I get out of the office to go and deliver those notes. But here's the thing about the intentionality of it. It's not about the note. It's about walking through the hallway, because now that I know that I'm going to write those notes, I change the way that I walk through the hallway. Because I'm always looking for the good things and not looking for what's going wrong, because I know I'm going to write those notes. Same thing happens with kids. If I'm walking through a hallway or if I'm walking into a classroom and I know I'm going to make a connection with a kid because I might want to make a call to the parent of that kid, I'm looking for the good in what's happening in that space, not why they're not walking on the right side of the hallway or if they have their pencil or whatever the case may be. Like those are things that we're not going to think about.
No, I mean, that's huge. I think that we all can look up kind of the impact of positive psychology can have. Just sort of, you can almost will some of this stuff into existence if you just sort of start to shift your mental focus into a more positive view. So yeah. I like that like just getting out of the office, which I think also as a teacher here, I'm going to speak for the fellow teachers. We really love administrators that get out of that office and look for opportunities to sort of hold up students and even some staff, like when they're doing that right thing. They say this is a thankless job, but it's pretty nice when you get thanked. So
absolutely,
kudos to you. That's so part of that being intentional is building relationships. It sounds like another part of that being intentional, it sounds like also intentional in terms of where you're sharing this information out so that it can create and resonate with more and more people for the betterment of everybody. This isn't showboating. Sometimes like social media can get that like connotation of like you're doing this for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're really talking about, no, we're trying to share out what Fall Creek's doing.
Right.
And it's about the empowerment of everybody in Fall Creek. And
this is about us, and it's always been about us. And I think that, and we're even intentional about where we share too, because I think sometimes you get that white noise of social media and you don't get the message doesn't get out there. Think about this. You live in Wisconsin. What's everybody in Wisconsin doing on Sunday from 12 to 3?
We
Watch
all know.
Packer games, right?
That's right. We all know that one.
And think about what are they doing? What do people, when Packer game goes to commercial, what are they doing? Where do they go right away? They go right here, right away, right? So guess what? Guess who's retweeting stuff from the district during commercials at Packer games?
Nice.
Right?
That guy right there.
We know now that's intentional. We know they're going to be there. So be there. Not that you don't have to even create new content at all. Just retweet stuff that's happening. And then you're first in their feed. And when you're first in their feed, you're first in their conversation. And that's how we change the narrative, because there are so many people doing so many incredible things, but nobody knows about them. Because people are talking about schools like things that happened 25 years ago, like it happened yesterday. It's not true. It's not fair to my people. It's not fair at all. So it's our job to get their message out there, and that's being intentional about that work.
That sounds good, and that probably resonates a little bit with your other book about building a brand. Just being kind of intentional to focus on your brand, continue to put that brand out there, and brand awareness can really be a game changer for getting your name out there and changing the story.
Yeah. Your brand is essentially what people say about you when you're not there. You can't be there all the time. Like, and I think that nothing will ever. And people tend to go away from that because they think it's a bad word or whatever, and they always say, well, people should just know about this stuff. They should just know. We shouldn't have to be out there. Here's the thing: social media and brand awareness will never, ever, ever replace face-to-face interaction ever. But you can't be there all the time. So when you're not there's gaps, and when those gaps are there, they make up what you do, and that's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Our people, they work way too hard to let people talk about the work that happened 25 years ago like it happened yesterday. That's not fair.
Well, sort of building off that, so we have this intentionality. The next piece of the wheel then can be opening doors.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm sure this goes hand in hand with some of that, right?
Yeah, I think it does, because not opening doors is not only about talking about the work that's happening in your space, but it's also giving your people the opportunity to connect with others so they can make things better for themselves, right? Because if you feel like you're isolated, then you're going to perform like you're isolated. If you feel like you're connected, you're going to perform like you're connected. And the idea that we have to keep in mind is that the work that happens here is astounding, yet other people should know about it. And when they know about it, they're going to ask you questions about it. So when we started opening the doors here and putting our stuff out there and getting it out into places that we had never been before, and the idea is that we could put it on social media, and we could put it, in all different places, our staff members started to get noticed. And when our staff members started to get noticed, then they felt like it was bigger than what was just happening in their classrooms. And that was a huge deal. So opening the doors was really about amplifying the voice of our kids, amplifying the voice of our teachers, and understanding that we can be really intentional about moving that message forward, so we're the ones that get to control the narrative of what's happening in our space.
I like that. Let's kind of break it down here. For our administrators out there, what are some tips you could give them for ways to amplify what the staff does?
Okay. So first of all, it's always about we, no matter what. It's always we. Like we were doing this, our kids were doing this, all of that stuff. It's got to be about we. So the administrators, the one thing that you have to understand is that if you're in classrooms, there's no reason why other people shouldn't know what's going on within the context of those classrooms. If you're not a social media guru, if you don't think that the social media is the place for you to be, which I would disagree with, but let's say that you're not that person. Okay, what if that you're in a second grade classroom and you see some really cool stuff happening, and then you go back to your office and you call some parents of kids in that classroom, in that classroom, and say, I was in the second grade classroom and this is what I saw, and I think this is what I saw, and at the same time bringing the teacher into it. And when I talked to the teacher after, she had incredible things to say about your son, and that was just really cool for me to say. It's also like calling, when from the administrative standpoint, calling a parent and saying, I was in a third grade classroom today. Don't call a parent and tell them that their kid is awesome. They know that. They don't need you for that. They want to know why, right? They want to know why. Opening the doors isn't just about making sure that you put stuff out on social media. It's about building this tribe of people that's gonna tell your story for you. We talk about I, we, they. I can take the initiative. We tell the story, and then they move it forward, right? I started, we collectively get it together, and then people outside of this building, can start talking about it. And what we want to do is, you can call, don't call home and say that the kid is awesome. Call home and say, I was in a second grade classroom and I saw these two kids working, and I saw a sixth grader talking to or reading a book to a second grader, and your sixth grader, and if I'm calling the sixth grader's parent, I could say, your sixth grader was reading a book to a second grader, and he made her feel like she was the only person in the world.
Right. And give that specific example.
Like he was a god, right? Yeah. And I'm just going to tell you, I think you learned that at home, and I just want to say thank you for that. That's totally different than saying you got an awesome kid, right?
I like that. So, and I think teachers, obviously take that same message and apply it to your parent-teacher conference or a parent phone call home. Just the generic sort of, your kids did a great job today, they rocked out, isn't the same as giving that, like, that story, that little vignette of how well they did and how impactful. And then I love that you attached it to sort of how they're raised at home, right? So you kind of gave credit back to that we, like you gave credit back to the parents, that this wasn't the school that did it. It was the community.
We're just here to help move the message along. And like, let's say if you are into the social media component, what if you went into a classroom and you did a quick 5-minute podcast using like Audio Boom or Podbean or Anchor, or any of those, and you do a 5-minute podcast, and then you go back to your office, and you want to be intentional about opening this door, because you could just put that podcast out there and it's out there. But what if you went back to your office and you're talking to Kale in the second grade? Kale was the student in second grade, and you decide you're going to go back to your office. You're going to call Kale's mom, and you're going to say, Kale's mom, I just want to let you know I was in a second grade classroom today, and I just did an incredible podcast with your second grade son, and he said this and this and this, and guess what? I'm going to put that on all of our social media channels in about 10, 15 minutes at some point. I just want to let you know about that because I thought you might want to hear it. Well, what's mom doing for the next 15 minutes? Mom's sitting in front of Facebook, and she should be working, or he should be working. We're doing whatever, and there's refresh.
I'm going to go one step further. Not only that, she is sending it on to the aunts and uncles, the grandparents, exactly. Like she's getting on social media already queued up with grandpa and grandma.
That's right. Yeah, so my sister gets all the accolades here. I want them to know that my kids are doing good stuff too, right? So yeah, you get that out there, and then now you've got people telling the story for you, and you don't have to be out there shouting all over the place, because people don't shout for a couple reasons. One, they think that other people are going to look at them and think that they're bragging on it, right? That's a big deal, and we got to get past that, people. We really got to get past that. The second thing is they don't want to do it because they're afraid of what their colleagues are going to say about it. And if their colleagues aren't ready for it, they're going to say, don't do it, because then I'm going to have to do it. Well, you know what? We got to do it, because we don't change the narrative by sitting in our room and just continuing to not talk about the great things that happen. And we let other people who are extremely loud talk about the work that happens in our space.
So I like this, opening the doors. If I'm able to sort of double dip a little bit here into this book, as well as your building brand, for those new administrators or teachers, I mean, I know you said like, it's optional. You don't necessarily have to, but I mean, what's your pitch? What's your pitch for why these people should be connected? And then with that, be all the things that we're talking about on the wheel, being intentional with that, opening doors with that. Like, how can we work social network into this sort of hacking leadership wheel?
Right. So the first thing that we have to understand about social media in general is all social media will do for whatever you're thinking about is amplify and accelerate it, right? So it amplifies your message, it accelerates your message. And I wouldn't be talking to you without social media. People wouldn't know about Fall Creek, Wisconsin. I mean, honestly, let's think about this rationally. There are people all over the place talking about a school district of 825 kids in Northwest Wisconsin. Who does that? Right? We got a unique mascot, and we got a lot of great things happening. And guess what? That's Anytown, USA. That's happening all over the place. But if we're not talking about it, and social media allows us to get that, to amplify that voice, to accelerate that voice, and it connects us. We're better together. That's as clean as I can say it. That's like, we are better together. And the minute that you try to take this on alone, the minute that you try to be a silo of yourself, you're never going to be able to make the movement with the people in you that you lead that you could if you were connected. When we're talking about, like, if that's not your thing, if social media isn't your thing, I would love to stand up in front of you and say, make it your thing. Like, I want it to be your thing. I get that, because I believe it should be your thing. At the same time, if you don't do it organically, and you don't build yourself a platform that's going to make you feel like you want to share, then you're going to do it because Joe said to, like the bald guy said it on that one thing that he saw that one time. And then it just happens sporadically. We want to make sure that it's connected overall, which means you have to be really intentional about telling that story on a regular basis, because that breaks the walls down of the sharing component. We don't share. I don't know. I mean, I do know why. We don't share. And the thing that we have to think about is, if we're better together, that means we need to create a culture of sharing before we go out and, like, spread all this stuff on social media, because a lot of the initiatives that we have get knocked down before they exit the building because the person next to us is not willing to do it.
Yeah.
And so we don't, because we're afraid of what they're going to say about us. And that's not fair.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I just always try to remember myself that, like, there are literally, like, hundreds of thousands of teachers doing, well, some topics apply to everybody, like whether it's, classroom management or whatever, like, it helps everybody. And then there are tens of thousands of history teachers doing exactly what I do. So, like, you got to remember, like, we are all in this together. And if you have some sweet lesson plan, some sweet activity, some sweet, bell ringer, whatever it may be, put it out there, like share it. And then like you say about the we and telling the story too, your kids are doing great things. So the better that you are branding like your own self, you're also then going to have like a great mouthpiece for shouting out some of the great things your students are doing or your school district's doing.
Totally agree. 100% agree. That's why we wrote the book, honestly. Like, I think that's part of it, is just the idea that the work that happens is astounding. Why are we talking about it? I mean, honestly, why aren't we talking about it?
Yeah. It's like I said, I think there's like humbling culture of teachers that we just feel like, well, like, you know, everybody does this, so like I don't need to share it. But it's like, no, not everybody does it your way. Like, right? Like everybody's got a little unique spin, unique take on it. So I really do encourage everybody to like either blog or tweet or, do something. Get your ideas out there and join this community out there.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. Like I said, could be YouTube, Twitter, right. Who knows?
Yeah, find your voice, because your voice, wherever that voice is. I honestly, I've written more books than I read in high school. Having said that, I don't love the writing part. So I've started to do more podcasts, 10-minute podcasts that just get a couple of thoughts out there. And that has rejuvenated me, because there are times that I just didn't want to sit down and write a blog post. But I have no problem just sitting down and, as you probably know at this point, no problem just spouting a bunch of stuff off for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So find your voice through whatever platform you feel comfortable with, or a little bit. Now, you might not be that comfortable yet, but you will be. Just give yourself an opportunity within that platform.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Joe's saying here, you gotta work through that pain a little bit, just like we're asking our students to do. Like we're asking you to put yourself out there, and you might not be comfortable right away, but find a medium that works for you, and then like get through that sort of uncomfortable position. In the past year, I started a YouTube channel. That was not necessarily my thing at the beginning. Like that was not. I was never a theater guy, so the thing to be recorded and be doing that was not totally what I wanted to do, but I liked it better than writing a blog post. That was more my style. So I did it. I got through those first 5-6 vlogs that were a little hard, but once I did, like, it was great to be able to share my message in a medium that I liked, and it was resonating with some people. It wasn't resonating with tens of thousands, no, but like it didn't matter. Like, you got to remember, you're not doing this for for the views. You're doing it for your viewers. So whether you got like 5 teachers watching or 100 teachers watching, it doesn't matter. Like, the people are finding your message, and it's making a positive impact on their classroom, their school, their sort of just their own heart too.
If it's one more than we did yesterday. That's all. Right.
And if we all did it, like I said, there's like 250,000 teachers in the United States alone. If we all did that, that's 250,000 people affected if we only affected one. Right.
I totally agree. 100% agree. We have to be louder, and I think you're right with the humble piece of it, but the other thing is, like, I think the way that people outside of buildings talk about school, because their school experience wasn't great, impacts the way that we talk about it, because we're afraid of what they're going to say when we talk about how great what our people are doing is. Well, that's not how it was when I was in school. I don't know, because I remember a lot of worksheets, or you know what I mean? Like that comes up, and then you have to defend yourself, and nobody wants to defend at that point, because there's a distinct difference between celebrating and defending, right? Yeah, and we want to celebrate, but we're afraid we're going to have to defend. So we don't.
So true. Well, I want to make sure we give some time to that third piece. So if we could move to sort of building, you sort of double called it building staff and building momentum. So this is like the third part of the wheel. We've talked about being intentional. We've talked about opening doors. Now we're going to be talking about building staff or building momentum.
So and you had mentioned it too. You're talking about, like, if you're going to start a vlog or feeling a little bit uncomfortable. One of the things about building staff is you don't build in your comfort zone. You have to find a way to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And building momentum and building your staff or building the people around you is really making sure that you create value, right? Wherever they're at, you create value wherever they're at. So everybody's A to B is different. You want to create value in wherever their A is, and know that we're going to try to get them to B. Okay, so we got all that. The idea that we have to keep in mind is whatever that journey is, whatever that journey from A to B is, we have to value that journey as long as they're moving towards that journey. We're not going to value being stagnant, but we're going to value, even if, some people will grow this far, some people will grow this far, but they've grown. Sure. And that's important because you value where they start and where they're moving. That's a really big deal in terms of what we're doing. Now, one of the things that was a big deal for us in terms of building staff was getting people out of their comfort zone in the way that they demonstrated their own learning. Our professional growth model here, which was built by teachers, okay, let's be like, first and foremost, our staff built a new model because they didn't like what professional development looked like in the past. Because if you think you're going to professionally develop people from 3:15 to 3:45 on a Tuesday, it's just not going to happen. That's just not happening, right? You want to give them ownership of the process. So we gave our opportunity was to give 6 teachers a chance to build a process. They built an incredible process, and it's a process that made Fall Creek an innovative district by International Center for Leadership and Education 2 years in a row. And it gives our staff an opportunity to give them voice in terms of what they do. So anyway, so what we did was, in terms of that staff, was get this opportunity for people to decide what they want to learn through their own, we call them passion projects for adults. We kind of treat it like Genius Hour. Passion projects for adults. And then at the end of the year, what they used to do is they used to turn in a reflection to me on how they learned throughout the course of the year. And I would sit in my office and I'd be like, this is awesome. And I'd call somebody or I'd text them and I'd like, I just read your reflection and it was amazing and whatever, right? This year, we broke that mold, and we had our staff developed a street fair, like a vendor hall of learning. So instead of turning in a reflection to me, they had to create or demonstrate their learning so they could demonstrate or so they could talk about their learning to their colleagues. Now think about this. If the audience is one, if the audience is me, people treat it a certain way. When the audience is their colleagues, when their audience is people around them, they treat it totally different because they don't want to look like fools in front of their colleagues. So their learning is different because their audience is different. And then what happens if you open the doors to build staff, right? Be intentional about opening doors to build staff. And on the day that we have the street fair, we decide to live stream it. So now we're live streaming all of these projects and we're asking people on the live stream, hey, where are you calling from? And what are you watching? And do you have any questions for our group? So now our group knows that their audience is not just the people in that gym and their colleagues, it's the world. We had 21,000 views of this street fair. So now when they see that and they see there's 20,000 views of people watching their learning, that's legit. And that's putting people out of their comfort zone a little bit. At the same time, now the audience is such that they treat the process differently. And if they're going to expect their students to present in front of a group or connect to a group, then they need to know what it feels like to be in that space. And when they do, now they have more empathy for the work that's happening with kids in that area.
Wow. I mean, I absolutely love that. Like when you change the destination, you force people to change their trajectory. Like it's just going to be different. And as somebody that has filled out plenty of paperwork for district office, for administrators, there is something to be said about private reflection. I'm not going to take that away. That's good. But like it is different if I had to build my own poster board session, right? For the street fair to sort of explain my year or my development or whatever my growth goal was this year, to share that out with other colleagues. That's fascinating.
It worked out really well. The other thing, because I think you make a really good point when it comes to the personal reflection of this and understanding that, we also had them do that, but I told them it has to be 250 words or less than 5 minutes in a podcast. That's all I want. Less than 250 words or less than 5 minutes in a podcast. Do it however you want. I don't care. But I want it succinct. Like, let's get it done. Understand that the gold is in the conversation. It's not in telling me what you think I want to hear about your learning.
Yep. I think that's like a powerful shift too in leadership when, like we're honoring the conversation. We're honoring really like truly building that relationship, which I know is also in the be intentional sort of zone of hacking leadership. What you're allowing that to do is you're opening up that conversation for me as the educator, right? So it's not just, well, I put it in a form and he read it in his office.
Right.
Like that's meaningless to me. Like, and I'm assuming if I haven't heard from you, you must have liked it, but I don't know that you liked it. You didn't necessarily say that. All I know is you didn't not like it.
Correct. That's right. Yep. And I'll tell you, so we finished the street fair and we gave out a survey to see how everybody liked it. It was like 3 questions, right? And one of the questions was, should we continue this practice, right? 100% yes.
Nice.
100%. Not one person said no, not one.
I love it. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. So
yeah.
for you administrators out there, think about adding something like this. Thinking about possibly like reflecting in a different way or offering multiple ways to sort of reflect. I love personally the short format reflection. As like you said, it's almost more of a conversation starter. Here's my little tidbit for you. If you want to have that conversation with me, Joe, let's have it. I
Totally
love
agree.
it.
And
That
if
is,
people want to know about it, then give us a call. Don't give me a call. I didn't make it. Not me. It's them. It's always them. It's always them. They put this thing together. They own it. They own the process. And I got to tell you, like, it's a heck of a lot better than I could have done in a silo by myself.
that's fantastic. I love it. Um, and I love that again. You just sort of modeled for us that it's always the we, it's always the them. It's never the you. It's never the I. I like it. Um, well, I mean, Joe, this has been a power packed session on sort of hacking leadership. You've given us lots to think about on that hacking leadership wheel. You even snuck in some tidbits there about building your personal brand. Do you have any like things that you want to make sure we sort of take before we start our 2018-2019 school year here from the Hive Summit?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. Anybody listening right now, if you're taking care of kids, if you're in a space where you're helping kids grow from their point A to their point B, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you. Because you don't get told that enough. Thank you for what you do for kids. And as you get ready for the school year to start, as you get ready to think about what's going to be in your classroom, who's going to be in your classroom, the why of your classroom, think about this. Spend less time. Spend less time making sure that the cat poster that hangs on the wall that tells the kid to hang in there is perfect, and spend more time on making sure that when they look in your eyes that they know that you care about them. Take care of yourself and take care of each other, because they will walk into the room on their first day and they will look around and they'll see the cat poster and they'll see their name tag, and then they'll go home and tell their kid, they'll tell their parents that they saw this and they saw that and they saw whatever, right? But when they look in your eyes and they believe that you want them to do well, that's the story that they'll tell their kids about. And that's what you want.
I love it. That is powerful, powerful advice. Thank you so much for being here. Um, the Hive is stronger when we all worker bees come together. I would like to give a huge thanks to the attendees for taking the time to pick up new ideas here in the summer. You guys inspire me so very much that you take the time to do this. You are truly powerful professionals, and as Joe said, like, we need to hear that we need to own it. This is not just a job, it's not just a career, this is a calling. Like, we're in this, and it means so much to me to hear you guys come out and do this. Thank you, Joe, for giving us your expertise and helping out at the Hive Summit. These are great, great, powerful ideas that I'm going to take, and I know other educators are going to take into their classroom. Everybody, let's remember to share out these new ideas learned and the excitement that you have using the hashtag Hive Summit. And that's all we have for now. Keep on buzzing.